All right, today we are diving into a really powerful philosophical story. It's called The Parable of the Architect's Wings, and it's all about power, rebellion, and what it really means to be free. We're going to start with this quote because it really gets to the core of everything we're about to explore. It's a pretty stark warning, right? It's telling us that the scariest monsters aren't hiding under the bed. Nope, they're born from the decay we let fester inside ourselves, inside our own foundations.
So let's set the scene. Our story begins in this city, Sanctus Genuarius, and this place has a huge problem. Its gods are dead, and its people are just lost. They're wandering around in what the story calls a heavy fog of nihilism. Basically, it's a total vacuum of meaning. The old values, the old rules, they mean nothing anymore.
Now, into this empty space steps something called the New Idol. And let's be clear, this is not some god of hope or inspiration. It's described as a cold monster, and it offers a very simple but, well, a pretty terrible bargain. And what's the price for its protection? Just your ambition, your potential, your spark. In exchange, you get safety. You get a life of predictable, mediocre contentment.
This deal, it turns people into what the parable calls the last man. And if you look at this comparison, you can see just how stark that trade-off is. On one side, you have the person who just wants to be comfortable, who avoids all risk, who actually mistakes their leash for a golden chain. And on the other side, you see what they've given up. The human spirit, something that's supposed to be like lightning, is willingly dimmed down to the safe, boring glow of a street lamp.
But of course, there's always one who refuses to go along with it, the Shadow Sovereign. He's this banished warrior, and he sees the city's stagnation for exactly what it is, a cage. He completely rejects the idol's deal, and he makes a vow to tear down the whole system and the architect behind it all. But he's operating under a really dangerous delusion. He thinks that just by enduring, just by surviving, he's safe.
So this leads our sovereign to cook up a new plan. He knows he can't just fight the system head-on. That would be suicide. So instead, he decides to fight it from the inside by playing a very, very dangerous game of shadows.
And you know, on the surface, his strategy seems pretty brilliant. He gathers all the other forgotten outcasts, he starts using forbidden knowledge, and he builds this secret empire right under the idol's nose. He is absolutely convinced that he's the one in control, that he's the master moving all the chess pieces in his own grand deception.
But here is the gut punch, the devastating twist. The master architect, the real designer of this prison city, he's been watching the entire time. The Sovereign's big rebellion, it was never a threat. In fact, it was part of the plan all along. The architect just saw it as a necessary clearing of his own board, a way to tidy up, to get rid of some unstable pieces. All this time, the Sovereign thought he was the player, but he was always just a pawn.
And this is the exact moment where the Sovereign's entire world just completely unravels. The very night his rebellion is supposed to triumph is the night the sky itself literally breaks.
You see, that force he thought he was weaponizing, all that anger and desperation from the outcasts, it was never really his to command. It was the city's own accumulated darkness, its own rot, the result of generations of ignored warnings and excused cruelties that everyone had just decided to bury and pretend wasn't there.
And on this one night, all that suppressed darkness, all that rot, didn't just break free. No, it learned to soar. What happens next is an apocalypse born from within. A monstrous wingspanned dread comes down on the city, a physical manifestation of all that internal decay. This isn't some enemy from the outside. This is the city consuming itself. The horizon, which should represent escape, has become a mouth, swallowing everything whole.
In the middle of all the smoke and ruins, the Sovereign is left completely and utterly alone. His grand plan, his shadow empire, his entire rebellion, all of it revealed to be nothing more than just echoes of a failed dream, a dream that was built on a rotten foundation from the very beginning.
So, the Sovereign's rebellion didn't just fail, it was annihilated. But it's right here, in the ashes of that spectacular failure, that a new, much deeper path can finally show itself, one that exists entirely beyond the architect's game. This forces us and him to face the central question of the entire parable. If you can't beat the system with its own tools of power and deception, then how on earth can you win against the master of the game?
And the answer is as simple as it is profound. You don't. You cannot defeat the master by playing his game. The only winning move is to stop playing altogether and to create a brand new game of your own. This new path, it's totally internal. It begins with what's called a downgoing, a really painful but absolutely necessary sacrifice of your old self and all its broken beliefs. From there, you have to write a new story, not with shadows and lies, but with your own blood, which means your own authentic, hard-won truth. And that, right there, is the only way to stop being a piece in someone else's game and become a fellow creator.
And here we see the two final choices, laid out crystal clear. On one side, you've got the last man. He's loyal to the idol of stagnation, letting his own potential dim into a street lamp. But on the other side is the creator. The creator is loyal only to the earth, to life itself. The creator doesn't just accept fate, they take ownership of it. They transform the past, what it was, into an act of their own will. Thus I willed it. They master themselves with the pride of an eagle and the wisdom of a serpent.
And so, the man who was once the Shadow Sovereign, he finally gets it. He turns his back on the ruins of his failed rebellion and all the smoke from the idol, and he starts to walk a new path, not as a warrior anymore, but as a creator.
In the end, what this parable is really teaching us is that the ultimate victory, it's not about destroying some external enemy. True freedom comes from the choice to stop playing the game of power and resentment altogether. It comes from creating your own meaning, from becoming, in the powerful words of the parable, the meaning of the earth.